are with my friend Vicki. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for agreeing to share your story.
I'm happy to be here. I think. I
It's not going to
was
be
like,
scary.
yeah.
Here's the nice thing.
I don't have a good story.
Yes, you do. Listen, a lot of people they come for the alcohol stories, but I think they stay for you have a story that goes in a few different directions, which
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think is I think is good. Um Now I know you IRL. We're friends.
right.
But I can't wait. I'm excited to hear your story from beginning to I know big parts of it.
Yeah.
One thing that I think people should know that's important to this is that I have always really coveted your hairstyle, and I've tried hairdressers that you've tried. I've said I'm going to come to your house and you're going to show me how to do my hair. It's really good hair.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's one thing I'm lucky about. That's one thing. I have a lot of hair and it's good hair. So thanks
It's
for
really
that.
good hair. And something I'll reveal about myself, which is great about Zoom, is no bra. I am not wearing a bra right
Oh,
now, and you
that's
can't
so
even
funny.
tell. How can you tell?
You can't tell at all. I don't have shoes on. I'm barefoot.
Okay. I'm in sweatpants, a cute t-shirt, and no bra, so I
Yeah.
am comfy. All right, Vicky, take me. We'll get to your sobriety in a minute. Take me back all the way, childhood.
Okay,
Who
as a
fucked you up?
kid, I think I was born this way. I was always very sensitive. I remember as a kid, I my mom and dad were going on vacation and I was so anxious that something was going to happen to them or I just didn't want them to go. And I remember I had stomach aches or something. And they took me to the doctor and they called it middle schmerz. And basically I was just anxious. But back then they didn't do any I think they gave me a placebo pill. Um and but we didn't go to therapy, we didn't like address how come I was so anxious. So I always was extremely shy, like painfully shy. I was very tall for my age. I was always uncomfortable in my own skin, insecure, and and that was from the get go, from the earliest time I can remember, like there was a pool party and I didn't want to put on a bathing suit in front of everybody. I mean, I'm like, in third grade or something. And I actually physically manifested a sickness. I got measles or something like weird. And I didn't have to go. I remember standing in front of the room for classes, like in a panic, willing to take an F versus talking. And that was just always there, always there. My mom and dad my dad was a battered kid and he was disconnected, I think. My mom did everything for us. She was the best. We had, a really good childhood because of my mom, but there was a fear factor about, hey, your dad's coming home. Let's, get everything cleaned up, all that. My dad, we kind of were like, if he was in a bad mood, we just stayed away. We didn't tell him everything. My mom, we could tell everything to. She was just like, tell me anything, no questions asked, kind of thing. And but when I was 15, my mom got sick and she went in for a hysterectomy. She came out with 4-stage ovarian cancer. She was 37.
Oh,
And
wow.
my dad on the way to the hospital told me, "Oh, I was going to leave your mom and now I have to stay, and I'm 15, and my mom's in the hospital not coming home. Um, and that was huge. And then he proceeded to like sell the car and the furniture, like do weird things. And then my mom came home. My mom was never the same. Um, she had radiation. the radiation damaged everything. She ended up with a colostomy bag. My dad stayed for a while, and then when my mom ended up with the colostomy bag, he was out. And, my sister and I just, kept, were the ones who took care of her. And my dad was there for us, but he ended up getting another relationship where the lady was sick and had to sit with her till she died of leukemia, which, that was interesting. And,
Karma.
he didn't get insurance for like, he took my mom off the insurance, so she couldn't get insurance, so some of the symptoms, she wasn't able to see a doctor, and throughout the years, she was very sick until but she lived for, like, 20 years.
Oh,
Like, she didn't
really?
die till she was 61, but she was sick, like, the whole time, like, a lot of the time. So, in the last final years of her life, when I was pregnant with, my daughter, um, she, she was dying. She had been dying for a couple years, but she had 2 feet left of intestine, so she didn't even have any intestine left because the radiation had damaged it, but because she was so young when she got the treatment, that was why she died so young. She died when she was 61, but yeah, she my life would have been completely different had she not been in my life, because God knows what my dad would have done with us and whoever he ended up with. Um, and then he did end up with a really lovely woman who, never said anything bad about my mom, and, my mom ended up going to dinner at their house, and it was all okay, but when my mom passed away, I found some of her journals, and, it was really hard for her to go and see my dad. It was hard for her. It was
Yeah.
hard, and she never remarried, and she ended up the last few years of her life being on a IV food hooked up to machines at home, and then, it's constant, kind of like I have to take care of her, and while I was pregnant, there was a lot of running around, and therefore, I think my, lot of anxiety. My daughter is a little anxious. I think that has something to do with my how I was when I was pregnant.
Or maybe it's just genetic
It
because
could
my
be my grandma.
daughter, or same as your, sounds like same as
Yeah,
you as a kid, my daughter was having, my daughter went to therapy third grade, had to have full exposure therapy to be able to like sit in a car by herself for 1 minute while I ran in to get some dry cleaning.
it's so
She would
crazy.
catastrophize and think
Yeah,
somebody was going to come and try to steal her out of the car. If she, I mean, she had, and I mean, my husband's not like that. I have anxiety, but I don't think I was actively like anxious around
yeah,
her.
and I think that I probably had anxiety as a kid, but was never labeled, so I just thought that, you know, and I just remember being, like, trying to do everything for everybody. I was the classic, people pleaser. I'm gonna do this for my mom and do this, this, and that.
Still are.
Yeah. Yeah. And, Emily, had, like, separation anxiety, so when she went to a new school, it was farther away, she had to take a bus, and I think she was in the nurse's office every day calling me. Now we've talked about it since, and I had given her the option to not go to that school or to come out of it if it was too much, but she said it was a big change, and she remembers being, like, terrified. So, it's just interesting, and sometimes we don't. I mean, now we talk about everything, and me and the kids talk about everything. So it's like, well, why are you feeling like that? And where do you think that comes from? But we didn't do that, but my childhood was, after my mom got sick, everything changed and it was about my mom. And that's what happens when a parent gets sick. It becomes a narcissistic, even though she wasn't narcissistic. It was kind of like, can she do this? Can she do that? Who's taking her to the hospital? All that stuff. And then when I was in labor with Emily, um, she was 2 days after Emily was born, I had to take her to the hospital, and, I had to take Emily with me.
Where was your sister?
Well, my sister worked for the movies, so she was there. She was helping a lot, but sometimes she just couldn't couldn't do it,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Sometimes she just couldn't do it. We became really super close during that time because when she was, and there's times where it's like, "I can't do this anymore, and this is a lot." We had to hook her up to IVs. There was a lot of nursing involved with, her. And when she was good, I was kind of allowed to not be good and vice versa. And we managed, and then my grandmother was still alive. And so we had to manage her too because it was my mom's mom. And it was just a lot of caretaking, a lot of caretaking.
And when did
Um,
drugs and alcohol enter?
well, it's so funny because I didn't get into drugs and alcohol. I mean, I guess, I got stoned for the first time when I was younger, and we would smoke pot, but it was like back row, homegrown, like nothing, and I didn't love it or hate it. Alcohol, I never drank because I would either fall asleep or get sick. I mean, there was no fun Vicky from it really. Um, did some cocaine in my day, but also would like do it because I love playing games with everybody and I do it and I wouldn't feel well and I'd like go get sick and then come back and do it again. But every night when I try to fall asleep, it's like, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to do this again. Never had my own dealers, never got stuff until I think when my marriage was when I became unhappy, I had a neighbor that lived next to me, and she would take a Vicodin, half of a Vicodin and a glass of wine. And it was like, oh, this is good,
She offered it to
And
you?
yeah, and that became like a thing on the weekends, like, "Oh, let's have a half a Vicodin and a glass of wine." And then that's when I developed my real addiction to, liking pain pills and not being able to get them. So I would try and finagle them out of her, um, and then it got to the point where,
Would it
um
tell me about a little bit about that feeling? Because I'm relating to I had a friend when I was in my 20s who had access to Ativan, Klonopin, the benzos. And
Yeah,
I loved the feeling. Even though it wasn't like I got high or anything, I acted the same, but in mentally I felt like, "Oh, this is so I love this calm feeling." But then I would have
yeah,
to make up like it was hard because I didn't ever want to seem like I was trying that hard to get her, like I was desperate for
yeah,
her to give me
yeah,
one, and she was the only access I had, so I'd just be
yeah.
like, "Yeah, I'm feeling kinda like, I don't know, my heart is racing a little bit." I don't know, do you have one of those I don't even remember what you call it, the starts with a K, and she'd
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like, "Klonopin?" And I'd be like, "Yes. Can I bum a
That's
hat?" But
so funny. I would do the same thing, kind of just try to make excuses because I didn't want them to know how much I really wanted one of those pills or wanted more than just a half,
right, of
because you
course.
get to want more than just a half. But it was for me, I didn't ever like Valium or anything like that. It just sleep, get I never liked to be out of control. That was the thing. I didn't wanna be like, if I drank for me to drink, and then I would get, like, slurry, before I even got, like, fun, I'd get slurry or something. I was always really aware of not being slurry or anything like that. With the Vicodin, it was like taking a upper without all the bad side effects. I would just felt like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing." And then you take a little wine with it, and it was just fun. And then it became like not the wine, just the pills. And, I think after that, I ended up getting a divorce. I had like a tummy tuck or something, and I got for the first time I could actually get pills of my own, and I think I got quite a few refills. and kept saying how much pain I was in. And it was painful, but it wasn't that painful. And that's when it kind of like I realized that I really liked it. And then I met another friend who had like unlimited supplies of pain medication, like hundreds. And we started partying on the weekends. And when I didn't have my kids, you know, and we would do, now it wasn't a half, it was a couple, you know. And then he had so many, I remember I would go into his house and just take them. I mean, he never knew. A few times he was like, I thought I had more than I thought I had more. And then I would say to him, I said, I think I'm addicted to these. I really think, no, I'm not, I'm talking to another addict. And so that went on for a few years and till it got to a point, I think when it got bad, and I didn't really realize this till recently, when Emily was 15, she was sexually assaulted at her school. She was brutally beaten up, and it affected me more. I was divorced. Um, it was traumatic. She kind of pulled away. It was a weird time because she was pulling away. It was her story, but I had a story, and it was very confusing. And during that time period, I was alone a lot. I had Max, of course. We shared custody, so I had Max every other weekend. And well, we had a 5 on, 5 off kind of schedule. Um, and that's when I kind of started having a Max used to call it my pink lemonade that he wasn't allowed to touch because I'd have a vodka lemonade and I didn't always have the pills. So I would have that at night, only at night. And then
So how were you getting them besides your friend? Any other way? Were you at this
no,
point, were you like
oh no,
doctor
at this
shopping?
point,
Were you
no, at this point, I wasn't getting them any other way. It wasn't until I well, that's not true. I worked for a dentist and I called in some prescriptions. And at one of the places I got caught and I kept my job and I sort of confessed what I had done and why. And he let me stay there, but he took away my Fridays or something off my schedule. No, that was when I'm getting the timelines, I think, mixed up because I think I was married when that happened. So pills were always kind of in the background, kind of calling at me, I think. So I did, but then I got another job with another dentist and I was calling in prescriptions. And back then it was easier to do. Now you can't even do it. And one time I was calling in prescriptions. I called in a prescription for Emily. I called in a prescription for me. I'd call in all these prescriptions, say it's the dentist, blah, blah, blah. And I did that quite a few times and went to different pharmacies. And, by this time I was taking like 4 at a time. You only get a prescription for like 30 if you're lucky, so it didn't ever last that long.
four at a
And
time and then like
yeah,
more a day, right?
more than 4 a day. Yeah, at a certain I mean, at the end, I was taking, a lot, a lot. And then I knew that if um I knew I was addicted. I knew that nobody knew that I was really addicted except nobody really thought I was addicted. The kids really didn't know what was going on. It was hidden very well because it's not like you can't function when you're on pills, even for just kind of, I would take them in the morning and it would just set the day tone. And then you kind of chase that buzz the rest of the time. And that's when you start to drink at night to kind of enhance them. And it was just be this kind of pattern. And I got called out on one of the prescriptions, and I knew the man I was working for would have put me in jail. He was that type of person. And I called I called a rehab place and I investigated because I always thought it would be fun to go to rehab. Now, all through this time after my mom, of taking care of my mom so long, it was very stressful. It put a lot of stress on my marriage. It put a lot of stress on me. And it was like after it was all done, that kind of like it affects you being a caretaker, a real caretaker like that. Not a people pleaser, but a caretaker. And I think that had something to do with it. And then when Emily was attacked, that was a whole nother level. And then she was going off to college and she pulled away, and it was all very confusing. And there are other little bits and pieces that don't really matter. But the fact was that I was getting more and more addicted.
Well, I just think in general, but especially for you, I can absolutely understand why rehab would just seem like a
Oh,
vacation in
yeah.
Costa Rica.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Exactly. Let's
Please
go.
sign me
Right.
up for massages and horseback riding and like,
Right.
please.
And during that time, I ended up going to a depression clinic, actually. Not a clinic, it was outpatient because I could never take the time for myself to heal. I went to an outpatient, and you were supposed to stop taking any drugs. And they put me on some um, antidepressants and different things because at that point, I just wanted to run my car into the middle. I just wanted to get in an accident and go to the hospital for a little bit. I didn't want to kill myself. I just like I needed a vacation from life. Um,
We
and then
never
it just
we don't talk enough about that. Like the in between,
no.
like not suicidal, but on but like
Yeah,
can
just
everybody just
not
take care of
yeah,
me for a
e
while?
exactly, exactly, like, I just wanna go away, I wanna run away from everything, I don't wanna do this. I always worked, I never didn't work, I would take care of my mom, sometimes I'd have 2 jobs because I had Fridays off, and I would work for people and organize their houses and clean their houses, whatever it could, because now I was a single mom, and it was a lot, and I never had a big career where I made a lot of money. I was, had a wifey career. And then when, that ended, I was just on my own. So, but when I got to the point where I almost got caught, I knew I had to do something. And by then my addiction was at its peak, let's say. I remember one time I drove 30 miles to a friend who said he had some Vicodin, and I got there and it was Valium, and I was so pissed off. It's like, oh, I don't want those. I just, and so I would go to any lengths to get some drugs. I remember trying to go to Kaiser and say I had pain. It never quite worked. I never was able. I did go to one of those quack doctors once, and it was like hundreds of dollars, and I got a prescription for a lot of stuff. But they go fast when you're taking, 8 to 12 pills a day. It goes
That's the
pretty fast.
problem with those kind of shady, like you could order it from Canada and it'll arrive in
Yeah.
like a brown paper bag, but the problem is it's too expensive.
It's too expensive, right. It was expensive, like, no questions asked, but it was expensive, and then you still had to get the prescription filled, so there was still a record of all that too. Now it's even harder, I believe, to do that. I remember once sharing in a meeting, "You have to use you can't call in prescriptions for Vicodin anymore." And everybody was like, "What?" It was like that was the big, I'm still on that part of it. Wait, what? Um, I called the rehab place. They said it was 30 grand because I wasn't going to use my insurance because I had Kaiser. And once when I was pregnant, I told Kaiser that I smoked pot, and they made such a big deal about it for like 10 years. They asked me every time. I said, "There's no way I'm going to tell them I'm a pill addict." I said, "Oh, I can't afford that." And so I hung up and I got online and I Googled how to detox from Vicodin. And I got the information and I got a kind of a plan set up. I called my friend who had all the pills, and I said, um, I'm addicted, and I need you to dole out a pill to me for the next week, one in the morning and one at night, because I can't have them in the house because I had tried to stop many times. and, I need to stop, you know, I need to stop. And then I called a friend in, program that I knew, and, she took me to a meeting on a Friday night. I had my last pill on that morning, and it was an Alcohol Anonymous meeting, um, and the
So not
lady
for pills.
no, not for pills, but the lady who spoke shared about pills.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh my god," and Vicodin, and it was like, "Oh my god." And from
Was it
that day
me? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, from I don't even remember who it was, it's so crazy. But, and then I just felt like I had, I wanted to be a good student and I was gonna do this, and luckily, I was really happy not having to control and manage a pill addiction. My friend, we weren't as close anymore because he was still had a lot of pills, so it was different. And he also, I could tell when he was like overtook his pills, so it became kind of strained until we stopped kind of talking to each other one after a while. And then I got reunited with him when, and then a few months later, he was dying of liver cancer, and, I kinda helped take care of him till he passed
That
away.
was who you introduced me to, right? Hair
Yes, yes,
hairdresser.
hairdresser guy. Yes, he was my hairdresser, and,
He cut my
yeah,
hair several times.
yeah, yeah, and, he never quite he had chronic pain, um, and I think he had some really bad doctors too, that just shoved all the I mean, he had so much drugs, Um, and then so I took, I think, the Monday off, that Friday, and I kinda detoxed over the weekend and went to a meeting on Saturday and cried for a week and was kind of ashamed and embarrassed, and
Was it really hard? Like, were you in pain getting off I mean, it's
No,
hard. That's
it
a
felt
hard drug.
it wasn't like you see in the movies, like when people detox from heroin or something really crazy. It was just you feel like you're sick. You feel like you have the flu. And that's why when you try to stop taking them any other time, you immediately feel like you have the flu. So I just had to get through the kind of the flu symptoms of it, but I was prepared with some I forget what they had told me to take, some vitamins, and I had a book. I had ordered the book and just kinda did it, and then I think I confessed to my friends and family who had no idea, and then I started, going to meetings and, doing some of the work in the program, and, I was relieved. I was happy, because I all the time I knew I was addicted. It was pills are kinda different different because the more you take, the more you get addicted. It's not like it's like you have to take them to feel normal. It's not like you're completely high or anything. Now you're just taking them so you're not, like, sick, like dope sick, what they say, where you have the flu and stuff. But it
Right.
wasn't, so I was really happy to do that, and I was excited,
But did you feel
and
like I mean, I think this is an important point. It is different, right? So did you relate though to the kind of I mean, with pills, obviously you are addicted, so it's all or nothing. You can't just take a little bit and then,
yeah,
but
yeah.
did you relate and I think you know where I'm going with this to like I have to be off of all things or did you in your brain go I was addicted to pain pills and I know I can't do that, but like do we have to like oh, I can't ever
Yeah,
have a
I
glass of
think
wine again or were you like did you right away accept oh okay, I
I
get it.
kind
I'm
of
with did you get with the
yeah,
program and go,
I
nope,
kinda got I kinda got with the program. It wasn't a problem giving up alcohol because I never really liked alcohol. I thought I would miss pot, because I liked that once in a while, but then pot was very iffy for me. Like, pot could be fun, and then pot could be paranoid, it could be if I was in my head, forget it.
Same.
So, yeah, so pot was, like, really, and especially when it got stronger and stronger, you didn't quite know where it was gonna take, like, it was weird. So, at first, I was just happy, yeah, I was gonna get with the program. Some of the stuff I didn't relate to, but if I would have gone to a more of a drug-related program, it's a little more, it's a little less housewifey with all the women, it's a little more cutthroat, like, I did go to some meetings that were more oriented towards pills, and there's, sometimes a little bit different crowd. So, the meetings I chose felt safer, and I always said pills are part of my story. I haven't hidden that. Um, where sometimes not supposed to talk about other things, but I've always said that that was really part of my story. Um, but I've accepted that I'm an alcoholic because I have some addiction issues. And I think what I most accepted about alcoholism is the funky thinking and the not feeling comfortable in my own skin, the feeling of not being good enough, all those things that is an alcoholic mind that spends too much time thinking about ourselves. I kind of related to that. So, like, somebody told me, look for the things that you can compare yourself. Look for the things that relate to you, and not the other stuff. And then I stayed sober for like 6.5 years. And about 6 years, I got a little, I wasn't like, I my sponsor was having some of her own issues. I think I didn't want what she had. My I was getting kind of bored. Um, I just was feeling out of sorts, and I was going to meetings and talking about it, but I wasn't doing anything about it. And then an opportunity came where my friend, who I was still friends with, who had all the drugs, I picked up some edibles for my son. One day I walked over and I was walking through Gelson's parking lot coming from his house, and I just decided to freaking drink this THC or whatever it was pot, some liquid pot. Oh, I'm gonna just do it. And the minute I did it, I was like, oh fuck, what have I done? It wasn't fun. I didn't want to tell anybody. I was like, "Oh shit, I'm not giving up my sobriety. If I give up my sobriety, then I'm going to have a drink and a pill. I'm going to just go out good. I'm not going to do it for a couple hours of a not even a fun time." And I called my friend who lives out of state and was in program, and I said, I'm not going to give up. She goes, "You can do whatever you want. No judgment here. If you don't want to tell anybody, that's perfectly," she was like, "Okay." And I had just decided, and that week I got a new sponsor, but then said, "Oh, everything's good." I was not gonna go down for this. Um, and had a meeting
Isn't it
and
amazing how we act like we're on some court ordered thing?
yeah,
Like we do it to
right.
ourselves. We're
Yeah.
all because we're addicts, so we're so all or nothing. We're like, like
Yeah. Yeah.
like
I'm
like
not
we have a boss in there. Like there's
yeah, right. Like
no
it's,
bosses,
know,
there's no
I
leaders,
I'm
but we're
at the
like,
time, what, 58 years old, and I can't decide that I'm gonna do something, and I'm gonna hide it, and I'm gonna go down. And then I had a meeting, and the the topic was rigorous honesty, but they didn't call me, and I was like, and then I was at our big meeting and the topic was rigorous honesty again.
Not
And I
again, you
never, not
fuckers.
again. And I'm like, and nobody knows because I'm sealed and just got a new sponsor, gonna meet her after the meeting. Um, and they chose me to talk. And it was like, fuck me. And I think I whispered to my friend Tanya, I think I said, oh no, this is fucked up. And she's like, huh? And it came to me and I said, if I'm going to be rigorously honest, I have 4 days today. I drank some liquid pot and I'm really pissed off that, that I didn't go out bigger because it was a waste. And, and it went on from there. I personally got a lot of love and acceptance of that. And that was almost 7 years ago. And I will say my sobriety changed to more of a healing sobriety. Like secrets do keep you sick, by sharing that, even though I felt really bad that I lost my time, my kids said, you never lose your time. It's just a number, you still have all that you learned. But I forget what I was going to say.
I mean, you're saying that you're new the way your sobriety was
Oh,
post that.
yeah. Post that, it was just kind of more doing it, but after that happened, I really started to look into some of my patterns. And I've always been a seeker, whether it was Buddhism or Kabbalah or something. I always knew I needed something. And what I found in this last 7 years is not so much, I mean, it is a God of my understanding, but it's just faith that I can have faith in myself. It's going to work out. No matter what, it always works out. And the amount of time I worry about something never pays off because it never turns out like I worry about anyway. And that has been a huge relief, especially coming from a family we were half Jewish and half Christian. We just celebrated holidays for gifts. There was no spirituality. There was no faith. I actually used to look at people who said, well, God will fix this, and thought they were like aliens, like, what do you mean? I always had to handle everything on my own. My mom, my marriage, the kids, it was always my responsibility first and foremost. So the one thing that I've really gained in being part of this community, and I think why I stay, is the community and the women that I can call, and that I'm never alone. And I'm a single woman and I don't feel alone, and obviously I have super wonderful kids, and I've been able to take some of the stuff that I've learned and talk to my kids and then say to them, like, well, where's this coming? Like, we dissect it. Like, why are you feeling like this? Where do you think it's coming from? When you were a kid, this happened, and kind of take responsibility. Recently, we had, like a year ago, we had a meeting with a lady from Peace Over Violence about what happens to families when a member is sexually assaulted. And it was a sit down family meeting. And some stuff came up that I had to readdress with my kids about the way I handled it at the time when I wasn't a sober person. And so many times we don't talk enough about the stuff that we went through as a child, the trauma, being a caregiver, divorce in a family. They all, if you're a really sensitive kid, you do not come out unscathed sometimes. And it doesn't have to be like you were severely beat. I mean, there's horrible stories, but it doesn't always have to be horrible. It just is. When my mom got sick, I became more of an adult than my mom, and all learning kind of stopped. And it wasn't her fault. It's just what happened. And my dad was not really available. So all of those coping mechanisms that worked as a kid don't stop working. And then I didn't have any coping mechanisms. The one thing we get with the program is some teachable, some some solutions, and then I can tell my kids these solutions, like, that voice that tells you you're a piece of shit and you're ugly and you're not pretty enough and blah, 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 blah. Don't believe it. It's not true. It's a thought. You can change that. Do you think if somebody would have told me that as a kid, how different maybe my life would have been? I also I did this empowerment class recently and address some of this story that I had about myself. And the guy was like, "So you're just sad little girl and that's your story?" And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm changing the story. I need to change my story. I have a poster in the back, a powerful, courageous, sober woman. End of story. I am owning myself. I am happy. I am at peace with who I am. Sure, I have days where, I just turned 68 yesterday. That's freaking old,
Oh my God, you
you
look like a
know,
baby.
right? It's old. I have it feels old. And I have shit with that comes up with body image and all this stuff. I have to just be grateful that I can get out of bed and walk and have a job and have these beautiful kids. And so I have so much to be grateful for. But by being able to look inside some of that stuff and then get rid of that old story that has been playing, the biggest joy I have is being available for my kids and to help them navigate so they don't live where I lived for a long time. That was unnecessary
That
just
is so
because of,
beautiful. I mean, I love
you
too the
know,
part. Yeah. Am I frozen for you?
a little bit. What's happening?
I think your
Is
internet's
it
being a
me?
little funky. Yeah.
Okay, let's look. It just started. Can you fix that?
I can't from my end.
Okay, let's see.
You're better
Oh,
now.
here it is. Okay,
Anyway,
okay.
what I just really loved, I love the idea, and I feel like you and I have talked about this, but I love the idea of understanding our part of things and even going back to address things with our kids that aren't even that bad. The idea of not saying to yourself, like, well, it wasn't that bad, like they're fine, and going like, well, I don't know if they're fine. Like, I don't know because my kids are
Right.
sensitive.
And
And
the
like,
idea of like, it's so cool to like, I mean, just the idea of like sitting down with your family and kind of what was your experience from that? So now we can do that more often. And like, I found out the experience when my daughter was attacked, a lot of, ex- there was a lot of feelings, and Max had a lot of feelings. He was only 8, and I wasn't sober. I wasn't happy. I was supposed to be the protector of everything. And I was like, okay, not that I swept it under the rug, but I didn't really go in and, which I have done since. I am so sorry that this happened to you. I should have been able to keep you safe. I feel bad about that. Is there anything I can do today that you need from me? Because I wasn't in a good place, and I probably didn't handle that the best way I could. And that, like, makes all the difference. When somebody says that, it's like, "No, there's nothing you need to do, but thank you for acknowledging that maybe I didn't do it all right."
It's so
You know?
simple,
It's so
but we
simple.
fight it. We fight it. And for me, like you, sobriety is what brought me the being open to how can instead of just berating myself for the things that I did in the past, it's about letting it go by owning it. And that's the gift you
Exactly.
get. The gift you
And
get from
that
this
is
kind of
so I
work.
mean, it's so free exactly, and it's so freeing, and, for my birthday yesterday, I got 2 cards from my kids. They know I like cards, and, they just said the kindest thing, and Emily was not feeling well yesterday, and she called me on her way home. She goes, "I feel like we didn't celebrate you enough because you deserve to be celebrated. If you weren't growing and changing and continuing to do all this, I wouldn't be where I am today. Do you know how lucky I am?" And she got started like, "I needed to make this day more special, and I didn't feel good, and I let that stop me. Are you okay? Do you need anything else for your birthday?" "No, I don't. I know that you weren't feeling good." And she says, "Well, what's your love language for birthdays?" I said, "Big, expensive presents, but that's okay." She goes, "'Cause mine are words of affirmation." So she always writes me a lovely card. But
Right.
Max too said, "I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for you. Thank you for letting me talk to you about anything and everything. If I do nothing else in my life, I change the pattern of the women in my life and the kids in my life, that we're not gonna be just a victim of our own thinking and not build them up so they can see what I mean, they're my favorite humans in the world. I wouldn't just plain and simple, and I feel really blessed that I have I mean, they came out with me on a Saturday night. I never went out with my mom and dad on a Saturday night. I mean, and they do it all the time. It's like, "What are you doing?" You know? "Let's hang. Let's hike. Let's" so that's given me that.
I can't think of a more beautiful way to go out on this episode. It's been epic. What a great conversation. I feel like I was just at a great meeting. So thank you,
Well, I know
Vicky.
that you're a super mom also, and I know that you were only as happy as our kids. And thank you for allowing me to share that part because, sobriety has given me gifts that are not quantified when you talk about some of the growth we can have and how we can impact the people around us.
Yeah.
So thank you, Stephanie. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. Thank you, everybody. And I'll see you next week. Bye.
Feeling like